So hey guys, considering I did the premiere episode, Undercover Burns, for season 32, I thought I'd do the finale as well. And that finale is of course the most recent episode, The Last Barfighter, a John Wick parody starring Moe. I love the John Wick films, so I'm excited that I will be reviewing this episode. It of course is episode 22 of season 31. It first aired recently, May the 23rd, 2021. It was directed by Timothy Bailey, and it was written by Dan Weber. It follows the story of Moe being a part of this secret bartender society. After Moe gets drunk and spills a bunch of secrets, he is forced to have his regulars cut off, and he attempts to save them from this fate. We also get a sort of a B-plot from Bart, although it's heavily intertwined with the A-plot, so I don't know if you would consider it a B-plot. Also, we get Ian McShane voicing a new character, Artemis, and I love me some McShane. That sounded weird. Anyway, let's dive into the plot and figure out if this finale is good or bad. The episode begins at the Confidential Hotel, a parody of the Continental Hotel in the John Wick films. We see this mysterious figure pull up on a bike and enter the bar, but that figure is revealed to be Moe. Moe talks to Artemis and reveals what his customers have unloaded on him today. It is revealed that this mysterious location is here to provide bartenders the space to unload the burden of their customers' secrets. I'm really iffy on this whole secret bartender society thing, because on one hand it's something obviously that's never been established before or hinted at in the show, but on the other hand it sort of explains what Moe does when he's not bartending. I mean, we know a lot about Moe, he's been the focus point of many episodes, but we've never really got anything like this. I do sort of like it, and I sort of dislike it at the same time. It makes sense. It's not in the realm of impossibility, but like I said, I'm sort of iffy on it. Whatever you think, this scene acts as a nice way to world build, and sets the foundations of the conflict to come. After that intro, we cut to Bart and Milhouse waiting in line to see the Krusty the Clown show. The show is cancelled due to snakes infesting the studio, and Bart and Milhouse are disappointed. However, they decide to instead go to see the Bumblebee Man show. They watch the antics of the show, but Bart has no understanding because he doesn't understand Spanish, unlike Milhouse, apparently. After Bumblebee Man's talk show segment ends, he has a try not to laugh competition where contestants have to fill up their mouths with horchata and try not to laugh, and of course Bart is selected. Bart though wins the competition, likely not being able to understand what the hell is going on. Bart is given 3 prizes to pick from, and of course he picks the ominous looking skull, and not that awesome cool dirt bike. Maybe out of character? I don't know. He takes the skull home and figures out it's full of tequila. Homer badly wants it, but Bart instead is going to save it until he's old enough to drink it. Now, this is where I think the inciting incident is, but it becomes kind of tricky if you consider Moe the protagonist. Maybe it happens later on. I'm saying it's here because the tequila is the thing that causes Moe to spill his secrets, so without Bart picking this prize and bringing it home, Moe wouldn't have got drunk and put his customers' drinking habits in jeopardy. Homer tries to distract himself from the thought of the tequila, but Bart makes him want it even more by torturing him by constantly reminding him of it. Homer is driven to madness when Bart has tequila played on the radio. That night, Homer steals the crystal skull by doing the old switcheroo Indiana Jones style. The skull speaks to Homer as well. I found this whole aspect a little unneeded. Like, I know the skull brings this sort of curse into Homer's life, but I don't think the ominous skull speaking Spanish was really needed. It just sort of slows the story down for me. Homer brings the tequila to the bar, and Moe pours it for the men to drink. And wait, I am so sorry, outside booze? In Moe's bar? And he is cool with it? Okay, so maybe this tequila is just so rare that Moe makes an exception. I'm willing to go with that. The guys convince Moe to give drinking a chance for a change and be on the other side of the bar. And it's really weird, because I swear we've never actually seen Moe do this. I don't see it as unlogical, it feels like the logical thing to happen, but it's just strange that we've never really seen Moe do this before. This is also our plot point 1, and it shifts us into the second act of the episode. Moe gets wasted and wakes up outside of his bar, and then we get a flashback to the events that occurred the night before. I really don't think this whole flashback thing was necessary. I mean, we didn't need Moe to wake up and recall his memory, considering we just cut away from Moe taking his first drink. It just feels really jarring. It would have flown way better if we just cut from Moe taking the first drink to the montage of their drinking antics. Anyway, in the flashback we see that they storm the boardwalk and we get a montage of them doing things like getting a photo, getting their teeth whitened, all while carrying that stupid skull. We then see them get exhausted and drunk, sort of laying on a bench, and the Lovejoys ask them to move. Moe then reveals their secret about their sexless marriage, and when the guys asks how Moe knew, he tells them that he learnt it from another bartender. Moe then begins to spill the secrets to many town members. When the guys tell Moe that it isn't right, he goes off on them as well, telling Lenny that he thinks he can't date women because of his spaghetti arms, how Carl hasn't taken his invention anywhere, and how Barney hasn't visited his mother in years. And then he turns to Homer and tells him that he uses the bar as a safe place due to him being worried about being a lousy father and husband. Homer drops the skull in shock and calls Moe not just a mean drunk, but an honest drunk, and he storms off with the rest of the guys. Moe sits outside of his bar after the flashback has ended and recalls the events, and then a rat turns up with a bar mat strapped to it, summoning him to the confidential. Moe goes there, and Artemis gives us a bit more lore about the bartender's secret society and tells Moe he must give up the privilege of coming here. Moe accepts and hands him his little key thingy bottle opener, and Artemis reveals that there is more. His customers must be cut off. I like the setup here. I really want to know what this cut off means. It creates some intrigue for the audience to keep watching and discover what is at stake for our characters. This, of course, is also our midpoint or no return point for Moe. Him spilling all those secrets means that he can no longer turn back. Moe is given until happy hour to warn his friends, and he rushes to the plant to tell them, but apparently he didn't know that Barney doesn't work there. He tells the guys to call up Barney over FaceTime, and the clock strikes 5, and Barney, over FaceTime, is jabbed with something. Moe reveals that this is an anti-booze syndrome, a drug that means that Barney can never drink again. Moe describes the side effects as Barney begins to show them over FaceTime, and the 4 remaining men dash out looking for safety. We get a few scenes showing bartenders being tasked with injecting the men with this anti-booze syndrome, and I really like this scene. They bring back established bars like the League of Extra Horny Gentlemen, and it's a nice homage or parody of similar scenes in the John Wick films. The men flee as the bartenders surround them, but they end up cornered, so Moe busts out his bar rag and fights them John Wick style. We get some fighting here, and honestly, the fighting wasn't that great. I was really hoping for more. Now I know it would break the realism to see Moe fight with such skill, but the John Wick films are known for their awesome and brutal fight scenes. This fight scene though is really tame and honestly kinda crap. On top of that, they are filled with these unrealistic moves and stunts that tore me out of the scene anyway. They already broke the realism here, so they may as well have made Moe like John Wick and actually have him break some skin and do some harm to these bartenders. The show has gotten bloody and violent before, so it's not even like it's a censorship issue. They could have had some real violence here mixed in and actually made this fight scene awesome. The men rush into an alleyway and Moe tells them that they need to leave town, but as Lenny and Carl go to escape, they are jabbed by this German bartender, forced into a life of never drinking again. Homer mourns for his friends and returns home with Moe. He tells Marge that they need to leave town, but Marge tells him that they have a guest around, Dr. Hibbert. Lisa tells Homer that Dr. Hibbert was telling her about how he paid his way through medical school by bartending. He then jabs Homer with the anti-booze syndrome and Moe admits defeat. He tells Marge that Homer is never going to be able to drink again, despite Marge being a little bit happy about that, and Moe slumps away, defeated. This of course is our plot point too. It's the low point for Moe, and it hurls us into the third and final act of the story. It's a logical progression too, but I found the whole Hibbert thing a bit weird. It could have been cool if maybe they set it up a little early on. Maybe Marge mentions to Homer that Hibbert is coming around later in a throwaway line, just to sort of plant the seeds there. Anyway, we cut to 3 months later and see that Homer is now a stand-up father and husband. He is dressed well and he gives attention to his kids, and overall he seems like this ideal and perfect husband and father. Homer goes to a coffee shop and sees his old drinking buddies. Lenny is frickin' buff. Carl has created this little hair-shaving mini robot thingy, and Barney got his old job back and is finally speaking to his mother. This is a nice little callback to those secrets that Moe spilled before. It's clear that the drink was the thing holding the men back, and now without it, they have improved their lives. The men decide to find Moe to basically laugh at him, and they find him in this omelette bar. But the men pity where Moe has ended up. Moe tries to hide in shame, and the men ask Moe to be their bartender once again despite not being able to drink. Moe accepts and puts on his bar apron once again. He serves the men water at the bar, and Artemis reveals to be there and tells Moe that due to his self-sacrifice, he has earned the antidote to the anti-booze for his customers. This, I guess, is our climax, and I hate how it is so easy. I think it could have been way cooler to actually have Moe and the guys storm the Confidential and actually fight to get the antidote back. That way we could get some more John Wick parody and some potential cool fight scenes. Because this, right here, this whole him just handing it because of his loyalty, it's super lazy. I'd like the idea of Moe actually earning this back by fighting and proving his words. Just imagine this. The guys storm the hotel, they fight like hell, but they are defeated, and then Artemis reveals that because of Moe's loyalty to his customers, he will give the antidote to him anyway, despite him and his bartenders beating Moe. That way you can still have the scene with Homer rejecting it, and you can still have that ending scene too. But in the story, the guys obviously just take the antidote, but Homer refuses and walks away. Artemis and Moe call in the bartenders to give the antidote to Homer, and we close the episode with Homer rushing away as the bartenders chase after him. I do like this as an ending, sort of. It returns us to the status quo, but at the same time it raises some eyebrows about Moe's characterization in this episode. But we'll get onto that a little bit later. The B-plot, like I said before, is pretty intertwined with the main plot. I mentioned pretty much everything already. It's just Bart at the Bumblebee Man show, him getting that skull, torturing Homer, and then the skull getting taken from him. There is one final scene after the credits of Bart and Lisa finding the smashed skull that reforms and gives them this ominous warning that I didn't understand because I can't speak Spanish and they didn't put subtitles. Don't have anything to say about this one really, apart from I hate that stupid skull. And wait, didn't it smash on the boardwalk, not in the middle of the street? The skull thing was abandoned after it breaks. They didn't really give us answers to how it communicates or even what its purpose or goal was. I'm like 50-50 on whether I wanted some conclusion to Bart having his prized skull stolen from him. They could have added a scene there just to sort of wrap up so we can understand how this affected Bart. But they instead just focus on Homer and Moe, and to be honest, I don't know if I really wanted an explanation to how Bart feels. Bart's storyline is a means to an end really. They only really needed it to set up that fancy tequila. Overall, the plot is not amazing. The first act and the first half of the second act are not terrible, but by the end of the second act, the whole thing just kind of falls apart. And the climax is just awful. I wanted some more action, and it was the perfect way to do this was having Moe actually fight for that antidote. Some of the pacing is a bit off, and the whole anti-booze drug ruins the realism a little. Oh, and that skull, it's just annoying and confusing. Have I mentioned that yet? I've complained a lot about that stupid skull. I don't think it's spooky, it's not funny, it's just awful. So, let's have a look to see if the episode does humour right at any other points. I think the best joke of the episode is Moe showing off his Iran crisis hostage shot glasses. It's such a weird themed shot glass to have, and it made me smile a little bit. Apart from that, I was not smiling much. Pack what you need and pick one kid is your typical funny Homer line, but it was okay. I liked Marge reacting very positively to Homer not being able to drink anymore. Hibbert giving Homer that plaster and that lollipop after he jabbed him was pretty amusing too. But apart from that, the jokes are kind of subpar. The Lovejoy's sex life, the mayor being a two-timing mayor, Moe climbing into the sewer, all jokes that have been done way better in the past. Some of the jokes just feel so familiar and stale. I didn't find anything in here that funny, it just really feels like the humour is missing and it was really needed to elevate this episode. This is kind of awkward, I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, it's not like there's a bunch of jokes in here that are bad, the jokes are just lacking altogether. Let's just move on to the characters. Okay, so the protagonist of this one is your boy, Moe. We open with him and we follow most of the story beats with him. Well, apart from the stuff after the time skip, then we follow Homer, but it works well to show us how Homer has changed after no longer being able to drink. Moe in this one is depicted a little standard, but we have new elements mixed in. Moe needing somewhere where he can have people listen to him is understandable. I mean, he probably has to hear a lot of crap from his 4 customers every night. But when he's forced to give it all up, he does it with very little hesitation, so he couldn't have cared about it that much. Him getting drunk and spilling the secrets works well, and they did redeem this by showing his loyalty and his care for his customers. When he goes out to warn them, he doesn't do it out of greed or profit, but rather because he knows that drinking is an important part of their lives. In this respect, I think it gives us a new understanding of Moe, not as someone who is exploiting these men for their drinking money, but rather an actual true friend. Well, it would show that, until they make Moe a complete asshole at the end of it, where he sets all of the bartenders out on Homer after Homer's decided to leave drinking behind. Look, I know that this is not out of character for Moe. I could believe that he would do this, but throughout the episode they don't depict Moe this way, they depict him as someone who actually cares about Homer. Moe just ends up siding with the secret society's wishes and condemns Homer to a life of drinking. The scene at the end is really just a cheap ending that actually ruins all of the character work they did on Moe. And I actually kind of like the scene, so I feel sort of bad saying that, but they really just ruined everything they established with Moe throughout this episode. So overall, I don't think this episode does Moe justice. Just because of that end scene, it just ruins everything they established. Homer is shown to be his normal self at first really, stealing the skull is typical, getting upset at Moe is typical, but then, when he is given the anti-booze syndrome thingy, he's a changed man. I do think that removing his ability to consume alcohol is a little lazy as an explanation as to why Homer is a bit lousy as a father and husband, but if you want to look at it a little deeper, maybe it's actually the fear that makes him so lousy. They make a point to say that Homer sulks away at Moe's to hide from the fear of being a lousy father, so maybe it's not actually the booze itself, it's Homer being away from his family and worrying about being so lousy that makes him lousy. Either way, I don't think there's anything in here that is too bad for Homer's characterization. I like the idea that he gives up the booze himself, and it's actually a really cool character moment, even if it is undone by the end of the episode. Lenny, Carl and Barney are depicted fine. All of their issues are a little lame, but I'm glad that they at least showed them solved after the time skip. But where the hell are Sam and Larry? Those guys are regulars too, writers. This is not me just being a weird fan of these randos, but I actually think it would have made sense for them to be included somehow. Maybe they could have been like an early warning sign to let Moe know that Artemis is serious, like maybe they get taken out before Barney. Artemis is a cool little antagonist, the voice work is pretty good, the character is a great parody of Winston from the John Wick films, so overall I liked his inclusion, although I wished he made things a little bit harder for Moe so we could have actually got a better climax. The characters are not great in this one. I mean, like Homer and the guys are fine, Artemis is a cool addition, but Moe is the protagonist, and I don't think they did enough with him, and everything they did do with him, they just reversed in that final scene. And Moe is the crux of this episode. So with Moe's characterization being a bit bad, it kind of ruins all the other characterizations as well. So let's move on to the score and answer if this one is good or bad. It won't surprise you to learn that I think The Last Barfighter is a bad episode. As a John Wick fan, I was disappointed at this parody. I'm not a hard man to please, I just wanted a little bit of violence and more competent action. That would have sold me a little more on this episode, but they couldn't even do that right. It's weird they focus more on this secret society thing and not focus on the action at all, really. They tease us a little with the fight scene, but it wasn't good enough. I do love the bartenders coming out in force though, that scene was cool, but as far as the parody goes, that was the best part. The plot sort of falls apart near the end of the story, and the solution is just handed to Moe and not really earned. Moe wouldn't have even gotten it if it wasn't for the guys pitying him, so he's not even an active protagonist in the climax. The jokes are not great either, and that stupid goddamn skull. Did I mention I dislike it yet? Anyway, in conclusion, I give The Last Barfighter a solid 3 out of 10. Sorry, I just didn't really get much out of this one. Anyway, no wheel. Next week I'm doing Holidays of Future Past as planned, so see you all next week for that one.